Amara sat at the riverbank, weeping uncontrollably. She remembered the incident that made her pick her water pot and left for the village river. It wasn't that there was no water in the house, but she needed to leave the house under the guise of going to the river to fetch some water. She actually needed to be alone to be able to cry out her heart without disturbance. Her stepmother had influenced her father to let her only daughter, Obiageli, Amara's stepsister, get married to the man who had asked for Amara's hand in marriage. This they did by telling him awful things about her just to get him to marry Obiageli, including the fact that she had lost her virginity, which was a great lie. Amara, who had always wanted to leave the house in the name of getting married, became very sad as she saw marriage as an escape route from the pain, torture, and maltreatment she received from her stepmother. Amara had lost her mother at the age of 3, and her father had gotten married to another woman who had been a pain in Amara's neck. She often says Amara as the witch that killed her mother. To make things worse, her father did nothing to stop his wife from maltreating her. Seeing that sunset was approaching, Amara picked her water pot, fetched some water, and headed home. Obiageli's traditional marriage came up 2 weeks later, and after the marriage rite was conducted, Amara pleaded with her father to allow her learn how to weave hair, something he agreed to without a waste of time. Amara began learning, and in a short while, she became good at weaving hair. One day, a young man accompanied his sister to make her hair. Amara was then assigned to weave the young woman's hair. While weaving the hair, her elder brother couldn't stop admiring Amara, who was conscious of his eyes on her body. The young man, whose name was Emeka, began to frequent the salon because of Amara. It was obvious he was smitten by her beauty and had fallen in love with her. He asked Amara to be his wife, but she refused. Emeka, who thought Amara refused because of her parents, traced her home and asked her father for her hand in marriage. Her stepmother, who thought Emeka to be a common man because of his common dress, convinced her husband to give Amara's hand out in marriage without her consent. So Emeka was asked to pay a bride price without bothering to ask Amara if she wanted to get married to Emeka or not. Amara only came back home that day and learned that her hand had been given out in marriage, and she should prepare to go to her husband's house in 7 days. Amara tried to protest, but no one listened to her. From that day, she wasn't allowed to go out of the house because her stepmother thought she would run away. Those 7 days were hell for Amara, as she spent time crying and hoping for a miracle. On the 7th day, an entourage stormed Amara's father's compound. Emeka came with the dowry item, ready to pick his wife. It was a shock to all of them when they discovered that Emeka was the king's first son who had been outside the country. Amara's stepmother was angry, but there was nothing she could do. Amara was quickly dressed by the palace maidens and knelt beside Emeka to get her father's blessing, after which she went away with her husband. The village tradition demands that Emeka will sleep with Amara, and once it had been confirmed that she was a virgin, the marriage ceremony will be conducted. Amara was taken into her husband's chamber, and after an hour, he came out with the proof of her virginity and handed it over to the chiefs, who immediately commanded that their marriage preparation commence. Emeka went back to meet his shy wife and promised to love her to death did do them part. Some months later, Emeka was made the king and Amara his queen, as his father had become too old for kingly activities. Amara, who was heavily pregnant, was relaxing one evening when her stepmother ran to meet her. Chimobi, her stepsister's husband had beaten her sister to death. Amara commanded the village guard to arrest and torture Chimaobi, but that couldn't bring back her stepsister to life. Her stepmother was then saddled with the responsibility of raising her granddaughter. Amara looked back and smiled. She would have been married to was saddled with the responsibility of taking care of Obiageli's daughter. Amara smiled and looked back. She would have been married to Chimaobi, the wife beater. But God gave her a greater blessing when men proved to be men. She said, of a truth, he who laughs last, laughs best.